Welcome to Fairy Tale Access, where the head fairy's quest is to prove that fairy tales do exist in actual time rather than once upon a time. Together, we will unravel the heroes, young and old, who turn dreams into reality. These are the people who still believe in happily ever after. The discoveries will bend even our most cynical non-believers into believing in fairy tales.
Welcome to today's edition of Fairy Tale Access. I'm co-host Kris Frank, and I'd like to welcome my guest, Kelly Amron, and she is the co-author of Tapped Out for College Students. And this is Becky Stevens, who is also the co-author of Tapped Out for College Students. And we're going to talk about the book today. And we're talking about EFT, which is Emotional Freedom Technique. And this isn't a mainstream topic, so why don't you guys tell me a little bit about yourselves and how you got into this?
Sure. Well, I discovered EFT, or Emotional Freedom Techniques, in 2007 and used it personally with my family and for myself, and really found that I've done yoga, a lot of different modalities I've trained in, and I found it was one of the quickest and easiest ways to make a difference in my negative emotions and my stress levels and just feel better. So that's how I got into EFT, and then I met Becky in 2014 when we decided to both train as practitioners in EFT.
And I was introduced in 2014 to EFT after I was having my own personal issues, and a friend of mine suggested this thing called tapping, and I was at a point where I was just like, I don't care, whatever, just fix me. And within minutes, I felt such relief that I went home that night, and I knew that that was what I wanted to do. I wanted to just help other people feel that relief so immediately. And basically went home, looked it up, found an instructor, and that's where Kelly and I met.
Oh, that's fantastic. I mean, it seems like you guys are really passionate about this whole new technique. And so how do you describe EFT and talk to people who may be skeptical about this type of energy work, or feel that this is just a new fad or something that is something new and upcoming and just another thing that's out there?
Well,
it is, look up on the internet.
It is relatively new, and there is a lot of information on the internet. You can look up tapping, you could look up EFT, or you can look up emotional freedom techniques. Lots of research being done, but as far as what you would say to someone who doesn't believe it, because a lot of people think like, oh, woo-woo, like it's not going to work for me. The cool thing about EFT is it works for people who don't even for people who don't believe it.
Right.
And it's something that you can do yourself. You don't have to go, and you don't have to wait to go see your doctor to fix whatever it is. Once you know how to do it, you can do it yourself. You see a practitioner for the deeper issues that your brain isn't going to allow you to get into.
Are there any studies or anything out there that can support what goes on? Because as a society, people are looking at other alternatives in addition to traditional medicine to look at different ways to help themselves. People are looking at organic foods. They're looking at all kinds of different ways to help themselves. And you have this energy, how do you guys describe it as?
Energy therapy,
energy
healing.
Energy healing, energy therapy. So are there studies to support this?
Absolutely.
That people can look at?
There are tons of studies out there, and it's a growing work. The more people use it, the more it's becoming a mainstream technique. People are becoming more and more involved in the research. A couple real quick studies that have been done. Dr. Dawson Church, he's done a fair amount of studying with it, and at one point he had a group of people, divided them into groups of three groups rather, and tested their cortisol level, which is the stress hormone. He tested their cortisol level beforehand. One group got 1 hour of EFT tapping. The other group got 1 hour of traditional talk therapy. And the other group basically just had a quiet room to sit in and relax. And after that hour, everyone's cortisol levels were retested. The talk therapy and the quiet control group their cortisol level dropped about 14%. The EFT group dropped 24% on average, with some people even experiencing a 50% drop in cortisol level. So that was after a single hour of EFT tapping, which is pretty significant.
Wow.
And then there have been a bunch of other studies where they compare it to other types of modalities and see which ones work better and whatnot. So
Still, more going on. Dr. Church does a lot. Dr. Dawson Church does a lot of studies.
And they're using this in other areas too. I know that from some personal experience, Becky has actually done some tapping on my son who has special needs, and that has helped him with some stress. So I know that has helped him a little bit. So it's not just anybody that can use this.
Yeah.
It's across the board that can use it. So something that we definitely want to talk about today is the book that you guys wrote. Actually, it's called Tapped Out for College Students. So how did you decide to write about this particular audience and address these kids?
this is Kelly's story.
It's a personal story for me to some extent, and my daughter had chronic illness during her first year of college. So I have three kids, one out of college, two in college right now. And my daughter was having some problems, not only college stress, but we added a chronic illness to that. And I was speaking with Becky at one point. There were a lot of great books out there about EFT, and there's some for a younger audience, kids in school, younger kids in school, but there wasn't one for college students. And I'm a writer. I have young adult fiction out there. I write a lot of fiction, and I hadn't thought of this, though. I said, I really wish there was a book for college students. And Becky said, let's write one. We make a really great team because we sort of catch each other, and as we do this work together, we both, I mean, this book wouldn't be what it was if the two of us hadn't contributed to it. So thank goodness she said that. And we created Tapped Out for College Students.
And the interesting thing about this book, I've looked through it, and it addresses a lot of issues. It addresses stress before taking a test. It addresses feeling overwhelmed. It addresses relationships. So how did you decide what to put in this book? Because it's not just about taking a test. It's not just about going to college. There's a lot there's more in this than just talking about taking a test.
Yeah,
so
there are over 70 scripts on all different topics, and
we did a survey of college students, and we got some great responses. We were able to go to a local university and work with some of their students one time and got some responses from them. And then again, it's really helpful that I have kids in college, so I was able to tap into that wealth of resources as far as what I'd heard, what calls I'd received, and what they thought would be good topics. And then I think we both went back to those olden days of when we were in college.
Way back.
But it was stressful then too. So, we just digging into all these different resources helped us. And we did some research too. There's a lot of research about college stress available online, and how much stress college students are under now.
Yeah. And it seems, based on, like I have information from the American College Health Association, their National College Health Assessment, and stress and overwhelm and anxiety has just been increasing dramatically over the years. So these kids are being put under a tremendous amount of pressure, and they need some kind of a tool to help them get through. So we made this book to be easy for them to access and not something that they would have to read cover to cover. They would read the first section to learn how to do EFT. We have tapping videos on our website. And then if they wanted to see it demonstrated, and then basically they look at the table of contents, pick what they need, and go straight to there, and it tells them where to tap and what to say.
So they can just go to, if they just wanted to, if they were taking a test in stress, they can go right to that topic instead of reading the whole book.
Exactly.
So it's not one more book that they have to read in college.
Absolutely.
Right? So they can just go directly to a specific topic and look at a video and learn how to do it, because, I would think it's, not necessarily the...
Well, what kid is going to pick it up and read it if
Right.
they have to read it cover to cover when they have everything else that they have to do?
Right. That was what I was thinking.
Right.
So
we wanted it to be easy for them.
it's a nice, easy resource
Exactly.
for these kids.
We've had a lot of people say, this isn't just for college kids either.
Absolutely.
I mean, you know, high school students, there's plenty in there that they can utilize as well.
We've even had parents say to us, you know, I've used this. I can use this, right? And we'll say, absolutely, you can use this.
Yeah.
Give it a try. Just
Yeah.
change the words around. That's all
Exactly.
that, you know.
And each script in there is very customizable. We have other options that they can use for emotions and triggers and whatnot. So we feel it's a pretty easy to use book that people feel relief from immediately.
And it's available online, so it's where nobody.
It's easy to find.
People don't go to
Exactly.
bookstores as much as they used to, so it's easy to access.
Yes.
So now that we've kind of talked about what's in the book, I think it would be nice for people that are hearing about this. It's easy to hear about things or think that you could pick up a book, but do you think you guys could maybe demonstrate
Oh,
of what
absolutely.
tapping looks
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
so that people can have a visual of
Yeah.
it?
When we did the book, so I'll start, and then we'll kind of tag team here. We'll do our famous tag team. We developed a system for our tapping, and it's exactly the same EFT as anybody else does, but we wanted to make it really easy. So we came up with something called the BESD, and the B is because. What's your because? An exam, a broken relationship, you know, whatever the stressors or the because is that's triggering the negative emotion you're feeling. The E is the emotion. What emotion are you feeling? I have a really big exam. I'm scared. I'm nervous. The E or the S is the sensation. What sensation might you be feeling? Do you have a physical? I have a terrible headache. I have a stomach ache. Some sensation that is going along with your because and your emotion. And then the distress is measuring the level of distress you feel. And we use a scale in EFT of 0 to 10. 0 is not a big deal, and 10 is it's a really big deal. It's really great to write all these down, because then you have a record of what you're tapping about. And then you go through and tap the points, which Becky's going to show you, and see where your level of distress is and how all of the BESD points feel once you've done your tapping.
So everybody feels stress at some point. So when you're feeling stress, where do you feel it in your body?
My neck.
Your neck. Okay. So are you feeling any stress currently?
We all feel stressed. Sure. I have teenagers.
Yes. Well, okay. So on a scale of 0 to 10, where would your stress level be?
Maybe a 5.
Okay. All right. So because you have teenagers, there's your
my
because. I feel it. You feel stressed. Is there any? We'll just go with stress for right now. Your sensation is you feel it in your neck. What kind of feeling? Like a tightness or tight? And what was your distress?
Teenagers.
No. What was the number?
Oh, my number 5.
Okay. All right. So from those 4, we're going to come up with what's called a setup statement, and that's what we say as we tap right here on the side of your hand. It doesn't matter which hand. Okay. So you're just tapping gently. Okay. And as you tap, you're just going to repeat what I say. All right. So even though I have teenagers,
they
they stress me out.
stress me out.
I feel tightness in my neck.
I feel tightness in my neck.
I'm okay.
I'm okay.
I accept myself.
I accept myself.
So you always start with the negative and end with something positive. Okay. Even though I'm stressed because of my teenagers,
I'm stressed because of my teenagers.
I feel it in my neck.
I feel it in my neck.
It's a 5.
It's a 5.
I accept myself
I accept myself.
and all these feelings.
All these feelings.
Even though
I'm
stressed,
I'm stressed.
I feel it in my neck.
I feel it in my neck.
I accept myself.
I accept myself.
The next point is right where your eyebrow starts, and you actually have 2 points, right here and here. You can tap with just one, and I usually just take my 3 fingers and just tap right along my eyebrow, yeah? Now you're just going to say either the because, the emotion, or the sensation, okay? So I'm stressed.
I'm stressed.
And then you're going to slide your hand down around to the side. You can do it on your other side if you want to, either side.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All this stress,
All this stress.
and then under your eye, it's because I have teenagers.
It's because I have teenagers.
And then under your nose, I feel it in my neck,
I feel it in my neck.
chin right in the crease. All this stress.
All this stress.
And then if you just kind of put your finger in that hollow on your neck, and then just kind of put your hand out, there are 2 points about an inch or 2 below your collarbones. Okay. I'm lazy and I just make a U and go like this. Some people like to tap like this. Some people go like this. Okay?
I'm going to go with lazy Becky.
Yeah. All this stress.
All the stress.
Because my teenagers.
Because my teenagers.
And then right underneath your arm, as if you're hugging around the side of you. Just going to tap right on the side. All this stress in my neck.
All the stress in my neck.
And then at the top of your head. All this stress.
All the stress.
It's my teenagers.
My teenagers.
Feel it in my neck.
Feel it in my neck.
Nice deep breath in. And let that out. And then kind of just check in with your neck. Check in with that stress. See if that has lowered that distress number. Sometimes we just did one round there just to show you. So, usually we would do a couple of rounds. It takes 5-10 minutes. You go through, you reassess, say, okay, you know what, I dropped it to a 4. Let's see what else. And now maybe your neck, now maybe it's more on just one side. So now you're going to say it's on my right side of my neck. You're going to just kind of reassess where it is. Sometimes people find it helpful to name a color that they associate with it. Oftentimes red anger kind of thing. All this red anger in my neck or something along those lines. And the more specific that you can get, the more relief you will feel. But even general tapping will help. So those are your basic points. And then in the book, we also show how to do it on your hands because obviously for kids who are in a test, they're not going to want to be sitting in a test while they're stressing doing this. Right. So we have hand points that we demonstrate that are right on their hands that they can do underneath their desk. So no one would have to know, and they're saying the stuff in their head.
And it's in the book in different places in the book.
We have several places in the book with the diagrams
where you talk about the diagrams in the book and the hand points here.
Yeah. And in the back of the book, you'll have there's an appendix in the back with both the regular points and the hand points.
Mm-hmm. And again, we demonstrate it on our website as well in videos. So.
It's great.
Yeah. And it's something that they can do. Anybody can do it. I mean, I've had 3-year-old clients who can do this. So, it's a tool that they can have to help them in college and then for the rest of their lives.
Right.
So
it's an empowering tool. Yeah, once they take it and have it, something that you don't ever have, you can always go back to, which is lovely. And you can do it really quickly and easily wherever you are, so you don't have to worry about being somewhere quiet and sitting in a meditative posture. And meditation's wonderful, but this is quick, any place.
So now that we've learned so much about EFT, where do you guys go from here? Or do you have plans for the future of how you're going to continue to spread the word?
Yes. We do. The next thing we have coming out, I'm very excited, is this Tapped Out, a guided journal using EFT to overcome stress. And this is coming out at the end of this month or the 1st of August. It is all the steps that we just talked about outlined in the very first pages. And then the rest of it is simply lined pages with your because, your emotion, your sensation, and your distress lines that you can write them down. And your reminder phrase and setup phrase lines, and then notes about your tapping. So you have several pages, like just weeks and weeks of pages that you can outline your tapping and keep track of how you're doing. Then we're also working on a book, a tapped out book for the parents of students on their way to college and once they've gotten into college, so it'll cover a little bit of both, and a tapped out book for parents of high school students.
Or for high school students.
Or for high school students, that's right, going to college. So those are in the works right now as well.
Yeah. Well, I think the journal would be nice to kind of keep track of what you're doing and where you're going with it.
It's nice to go back sometimes and say, oh my gosh, that doesn't bother me at all anymore. So,
plus, this is for anyone. I mean, this is not at all tied to just college students or the book. Anybody can pick this journal up. They don't have to have read the book. It does give the basic information. Then they can do their own tapping scripts. They can do their own.
I think that's fantastic, that you guys are doing this and spreading the word. And I know that, talking to you guys, you have talked about how this is coming out more and more in different modalities and talking about maybe using it in schools, using it in therapies and therapy offices and things like that, but that's more up and coming, and it's becoming a little bit more mainstream.
It's a very empowering tool, especially because you can do it yourself. I think it should be in every school personally.
I would agree with you.
It gives kids who don't have a tool, a resource.
And they take it as from the time that they're kids, and they can use it as adults. So think how lovely it would be if we were all a lot less stressed as adults and had something quick and easy to help us all out.
Yep.
Well, that's a whole nother show.
Oh, absolutely.
Talking about stress and how to get rid of that.
Yeah.
But this is a great tool to be able to use to add to that wheelhouse.
Yeah.
So now that we've talked about that, and that your book is available online, and Becky, I know you have your coaching business, and Kelly, you do also, and that's available on. That information is available.
It's all on our EFT website. Yes, the EFT Books for You website.
Okay, and on your websites, and that'll be available also. So now that we've talked about that, just a question that we always talk about is, so what were your favorite books of all time, and what kind of books influenced you guys
Kelly?
growing up?
Growing up, my favorite book was Little Women. I loved the camaraderie and the family, and I don't know if I can give you a word exactly, but it drew me in time and time again. I love to read. As I said, I'm a writer, and so I love to create worlds. And another book series that I love, and I was a grown-up when these came out, but I loved reading them to my kids, were the Harry Potter books. Absolutely love those books and the world that she created in those books, and I'm working to create those worlds myself when I write. And I like a lot of different nonfiction books as well. I find a lot of nonfiction books are very important to me, and I don't know, give me insights as I move forward in my life. And there's a man named Stephen Cope. The great work of your life is When I Love by him, and they're based on the yogic traditions, which are very important to me as well. So I love just a myriad of books. It's really hard to pick one.
I know.
It's really hard to pick 10.
Yeah, exactly. I was an avid reader as a child. My parents would have to take books away from me so that I would sleep. So to try and pick a single book from my childhood, I mean, I was a huge fan of Judy Blume and Beverly Cleary and all of those. But one book that really jumps out for me is Cry the Kalahari, and I unfortunately cannot remember the authors, but it's about two biologists who go and live in the Kalahari Desert and study the lions and the hyenas and just the life cycle of everything there. And it was so, it made such an impression on me that I actually wrote about that book in a college essay when I was back in the day.
Not that long ago.
No, last week.
Right, exactly.
But I mean, and still, even now, I read every day. So I can't get enough of reading. I think I'd choose reading over television any day.
Oh, me too. I agree.
What was yours?
Well, my favorite adult series is Outlander by Diana
that's
Gabaldon.
good.
And now that it's a series on TV, it kind of makes it hard to not just read it and watch it. But
Right.
I think I've read the series about 5 times. But I was a Little Woman fan, too. You know, I think you can't not be. Or Little House on the Prairie.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's
That
another
was
good one.
that was
Yes.
huge. I think that, you know, I read that series and Nancy Drew.
Yeah.
Oh, I love
Those-
Nancy Drew.
I mean, we
And-
could keep going and
I know,
going.
exactly. You can talk about books forever, and I
Yeah,
think that
It's
it's
true. They evoke a new world.
They really do.
exactly, and I think that, you know, I try really hard to make sure that my daughter reads, and even my son, you know, who has special needs, try to make sure he reads. And Harry Potter was another that he could immerse himself in that world, despite his.
Yep, those books drew a whole generation
yeah.
of kids into reading again, which was wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, ladies, very much for
Thank you.
sharing that. Thank you for joining us at Fairy Tale Access. Until next time, keep asking questions.